So, I'm gonna start with, we're gonna build a chair. So we start with Photoshop, booting Photoshop. I put the reference picture into the build location already. So the build is in desktop CX file, and I guess that for you that would be wherever you have your build at some point, or where you have your project. So we now have that in CryEngine launcher, Crytek 5.3, and then there's game 0, game data, and I have a chair folder in here with a picture of a chair. So starting Photoshop. Photoshop's here, we're going to open the chair JPEG and just copy that over and create a new file, which will just for now stay small. So this is just a quick mock-up of a chair. It's not a nice final beauty, but just so we have something. Create a chair, paste that in here, scale it down a bit, done. So in the best case you have your tools set up already, so the Photoshop tools, Max tools are all installed from the build already. Then you can go File, Save As, Creative, and save it as chair. And now comes a naming convention that we have inside the studio, so we put a chair diff for diffuse. We have different endings for different kind of textures, so we're just going to make that a div, albedo 512, say OK, and we have the texture. So next we go to 3ds Max, not this one, cut that out. So next we're going to start 3ds Max. Okay, so we got 3ds Max running. First thing that we do here is we save the Max file to the same location as the file should go later, chair. So we put the Max file in the same location. So now in this location we have, let's go view details, details. So we have a TIFF file, we have a chair JPEG, that's okay for now, and we have a chair Max file. So chair JPEG is the source, this is the square format, and this is the Max file. So inside Max file, what Max normally comes with is a preferences gamma corrected is disabled, so I personally like to work with this disabled, so it just works better for me. So we will create a plane. I guess this is going to be centimeters, but you can also go to meters. So normally we don't work with centimeters because it gets fizzly, so we go unit setup and say we would like to have meters. System unit in the back should also be centimeters, okay, and then the metric is meters, okay, and now we have a plane with a meter by meter, so we get rid of the grid. And we need a material, so we're gonna create a multi-sub material, multi-sub object, keep all, we're gonna just still need 2 of these, and we call that chair as well. And this would be the render, and we put it to CryShader and leave it as it is, and this we just copy it over for now and call that proxy and physicalize it as the physics proxy no draw. That should be the proxy that makes sure whatever mesh you give this ID will get physicalized. So to make that a bit better visible later, we're going to just turn it red and make it opacity 50%. So we have a render, And in the render we assign the Overmix, CryEngine launcher, a Crytek 5.3, game 0, game data share, the diffuse the TIFF. Okay, we get the TIFF on it, and we put that on and previewed, and we have a picture of a chair on a plane. So this, what I show now, will just be a way of how, if I would get given this chair as a build it, then I would probably even start with that photo and not do much more. I would literally just see what works best, and I think this piece of wood works quite well. This piece of leather here works quite well, so I would just go convert that to editable poly and start cutting right into it. So I would go to the cut tool and say, okay, I want this part as my main wood part. Maybe I also want this as a connection part, and I want this here for the leather, or for the seat on top. Let's say this is going to get the top seat part. I'm going to create this. Well, this looks good as well. We can also get this. Get this, this, and this. So that's going to be enough elements to build the entire chair from. Maybe we can also go for this one here. Cut here, and here, and here, and here. So we're going to delete the stuff we don't need. Okay, so we have that and that. Okay, so from here, in our daily workflow we have a lot of shortcuts, so I need to search that buttons nowadays. Detach the elements, stay to this. Okay. Then I will just align this on these axes, align this as well, make it all a bit straight so it's easier to work with. Straight, 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 up, straighten, straighten, and make that foot. Probably need a bit more of this. No, that's good enough. Here I need an additional cut. Okay. That should be good for now. We can go this X, okay, just a little more. So normally I would have shortcuts for the align, shortcuts for the loop, so that everything would just get way faster as soon as you have shortcuts for whatever you click. Try to have a shortcut, and then it will get faster and faster and faster. Just a few more here. Okay, and from this, then we would just create a leg. So I don't know where are we? Top view? Top view, okay. So the leg definitely has to stand, so we turn on angle snap, rotate it 90, and another 90, and turn on vertex snap as well. Okay, and I've screwed up because I haven't turned off preserve UVs. So, okay, let's do that again. Turn it 90. Scale it a bit. Duplicate. 90 degrees. Turn it, bring it here. And both of this. Oh, okay. There would be a shortcut normally, but go over here, turn this. And actually, I think that would even work better if... No, that's okay. We just turn it 180. Snap, close, how I like. Okay, same we just quickly do for... Gonna abandon this one and we just go for that one. It's getting a bit easier. Go 90 and go 90, and of course we need to weld all the words, but since we don't want to do that too often, we're just gonna do it towards the end. Okay, this one was from the top, so we're gonna put this around. And also just quickly turn, snap it here, we got that, and this one we'll also just duplicate, flip it. Gotta see that the properties that we have backface come on, so we understand our backfaces a bit better. And then just extrude and live with the stretching, since it's just a rough model, but it goes with color and goes the direction already a bit better. It's a bit closer to the photo than just a box. Okay, then we would select all words and weld and have smoothing group problem now, so we just clear all smoothing groups, select faces, clear smoothing groups. Still have a few open edges and we will just cap them all. Good enough for now. Good. So this now we gonna put together to chair. We turn off the snap and what was it looking like? Roughly like this. Okay. So I guess that would be a bit longer for sure. So put this a bit more at the top element. Okay, roughly like this. Same here, leg again. Over, double here, doesn't fit, so we go to words, move that all out, check again, there's two here, one here. This is roughly in the middle, the other ones are a bit above. So we just take these, bring it in, go F3, see that works here, that works here, bring that up a little bit. I think in general they are a bit higher, and then the double ones are a bit lower. Okay, then we need the stuff for this, rotate 90. And we have a chair. Without spending much time in Photoshop, we spend a bit more time in Max. So this is no golden rule or no golden way, it's just one way of how I got used to do stuff to get something fast over and get the proportions, get the color. So now we see this is not really best, so we make it a bit like this. We fix the proportions a bit. One very important thing at that state already is it actually any human height, because we want to avoid scaling it later in the engine. We want to have this in max in the first pass, in the best case, at a good scale already. So that should be good. So since I don't have a human, would be good if you do that for yourself, to have a human mesh that you can import and then you always have as a reference. I will now just create a box with a size of 1 meter 80 and see if that roughly fits. That should be kind of okay. So 1 meter 80 is roughly this, so it's a bit of a small chair. Before I start scaling it, I could now go in the pivot and change the pivot, but I can also easily, since the pivot is on 0 already, I will just go and take the vertices and move the chair. I will wait. So I will move that stuff to 0, then I know where the pivot is. And now just move the chair in the right location. So my pivot stays there, the chair mesh is okay. And I guess for 1 meter 80 this is still a bit small. So just by guessing, that should be about it. But as I said, best is to have a human mesh for reference. Okay, then we need to reset X form, and even that goes through shortcut. So they, at some version in Max, they fixed the reset X shortcut, so that works. But right now, I think there's a modifier for it, right? Reset X form, okay, and convert to editable poly, and that should be scale as, nope, that's not it. Then we need to get it from here, then it's more reset X form, nope. Okay, since there's no other way, then we will just create a shortcut. So customize user interface, show keyboard, search for reset X form, and just put Shift X on it. I don't need that. Save it to desktop, and got it. Yes. Okay, and we are reset at X form, so we have 100 scale, acquired rotation, everything is good to go from here. So we will now see if we get that to the engine. We will save that file, call that thing chair, check material, this is here, chair, and then we go to the CryEngine exporter at selected, and we have the settings, export file per node. This is the only thing we change. We just go export file per node, add a chair. Everything else here stays as it is, but the options, I always turn that off because this is just annoying. It might be helpful to give you warnings if you want that warnings, but mostly I know I'm fixing my reset X scale, so I don't need all that warnings. And it literally kills this window. If we have all this stuff here on, it always asks you, do you want to override? No, we don't want to override. So if you turn at least override off, then you can export and it will not make you click all the time. Okay, so now we here have a chair CGF as well. So we're still working inside with the CGF format, but the engine team is working to get that stuff over to FBX. But since we started the production currently with CGF, we will stay on it for a while. So I cannot show you the FBX workflow right now. Good, then let's get the engine running. Desktop, engine. So the engine is the same, starts from the location where we stored the asset. And I think also that later with the FBX pipeline you can import the FBX from wherever you want. but the old workflow that we're currently still going for is that we stay with the assets in the engine parse, so we all have the same source control location. Yeah, that's just the old setup, but I think the engine gets some pretty big overhaul. So we also skip the launcher here right now, and we're just going to create a new level. And since we call everything chair, we also call that chair. And here we go. Okay, so now there's different ways of, depending on what you want to do. If you want to create a static object, let's create it as a physicalized object in the first place. So we go in Layout, Tools, we go in Tools, and go to Schematic View, and create a new class, which we call rigid body. Invalid name. Okay. I guess the space was a problem. Rigid body. No, we're not typing. No. Rigid body. Okay. And to that class we add a component. One is geometry. And we add another one which is called physics. Component physics. And we want to have the physics parameter public, and we also want to have the geometry parameter public. Okay, then we can close. Oh, we need to save it before, otherwise it will not show up. So we saved the schematic, and we can then go to create entity schematic rigid body. This is the entity we just created, and in the properties we see it has a geometry window, and there we're gonna add our game data chair. So before we do that, I forgot one part. Okay, because you need a material, and it's easier to create the material before you import the mesh to the engine. The engine has some problems if you have the mesh imported already and the material is not there. That is getting a bit more nasty to get the material working. So the best what you can do is to model the stuff you want to do, create your material, and before you ever load this thing, you go in the exporter and press create material. It goes to the same folder here, and you call it share, save it, and here we go. Chair render proxy, we could have set that to no draw, but it doesn't matter, it's no draw anyway. Okay, now we have the material running already. So the material, the render geometry should always be white. It starts with not white, which is not good. It starts with something else, but the best is to have it set to white, because that's what the renderer can handle best. There's the texture. Also a specular. If you go PBR workflow, then it's always good to have some kind of specular around 40, 50. It's not super important, but that is good default starting values. Smoothness of 10 if you don't have a normal and roughness map. A little specular is always good to have, and Illum shader, chair texture, pretty basic. That's it. Okay, now we have the material, and now we go for that entity we just created, rigid, and go geometry, and go game data chair. Double click, here we got a chair. It's a bit dark right now. We could, to get rid of the dark, we go to level settings, and enable voxel GI, and we have ambient light. Okay. So we have a geometry loaded in, and we want to manipulate the physics as well. Physics is here, edit physics, and all we need to get is set a mass to, what is a chair in kilograms, 10? Guessing, I don't know. So it will not work now because it's not physicalized. It has no physical nothing. I'm going to do a proxy now, even if it's the same geometry as we have, but what you normally have is a more complex render geometry with way more triangles, which you not want to have all physicalized because it keeps the renderer way too busy, the physics engine too busy. So we're gonna assume we would have more triangles in here, and we want to create a simplified version of the proxy, which would be, in this case, the same. So in this case, we just duplicate, we just clone that, copy, no, there's a clone somewhere. We clone it, clone, and call it $physics proxy. Okay, and we give it ID 2. Oh, okay, guys, this is a duplicate as an instance, so we're going to convert that to editable poly. There's no instance anymore. Give all that ID 2, and just link it to the chair and align it back. There's a quick align, nope, not mirror, align it here. Okay, again, it's so good to have shortcuts, really, if you can somehow make more shortcuts. A very good trick to get used to shortcuts actually is to put them on a piece of paper, put them right next to your monitor, start with 5 in the first place, and once, because if you just assign a shortcut you will forget it and you will press the button again. So go press, write them down, put them on a paper, put them next to your monitor, and look at that paper, and once these 5 are in, put the next 5 on. That's actually working quite well. Okay, so we now have a physics proxy link to the chair. We can close the material, and we export this again without any warnings. This is good. And we just show the view modes, and in here we can see if the proxy actually went through. Looks like not, so we might need to reload script. Okay, here's the proxy. So then we could see if it's physicalized by turning off proxy again and enable physics, jump into game with Control G, no, that's wrong, press that button and start moving it. So I don't know why we see physics now, but it works. It has a proxy, it's colliding, we have a chair. Wonderful. Ready. So we got the chair, and we add it to the list, add selected, export it, and we go to the engine and create our entity rigid body, and go to the properties and edit geometry, add the geometry from here, chair, and we also activate the physics by setting mass to 50, heavy chair, let's put it to 20. And then we can go physics enable, get the punch of God and move it around. And we have a physicalized chair. Turn it off. Turn off physics. Okay. Release the hand tool. And we got it. So one more thing what might be interesting is this is a very expensive proxy. If the proxy looks like you see lines, then that means every triangle counts. So to make that cheaper and to get the physics engine less work, we could just detach all these proxies as individual boxes, and then it would recognize them as a box more as a math operation instead of really placing points from triangles. To get that done quick, there is a tool in the engine, so we select the proxy and delete it, and we go for the CryMax toolbox, and in the Cry modeling there's a physics proxy tool, and we say the proxy should get ID 2 and should go on every element and make an aligned box around every element. And now we have way more boxes, but if we export, and yeah, you see physics mesh has missing texture coordinates, so I have to close that, but this is okay, I don't need texture coordinates. And now it's just export gone. And if we now reload the tool, reload, where is it? Reload script. Now we see those lines are gone, and that means one box comes for the price of one triangle. Normally a box consists of 12 triangles, and now a box is coming for a price of one triangle. So it's basically just a math calculation. I'm sitting here and I'm going into 3 directions, and by that the engine is creating a very simple primitive box which is way cheaper than 12 triangles. Of course you have some ugly stuff in Max here now, but that's something you can put and hide on a layer, or just select and hide, and don't need to see that most of the time. Okay, save it, close, hide, selection. Okay, we can go to LODs because that's what you normally need, not for this because it's so simple what you want to LOD. So, but if we would assume that entire thing would be more poly heavy, maybe not tessellated, but subdivided, so it would have more polygons. It would have around this. So what I normally do for counting polygons is go into the statistics, and not polys but triangles, not frames, and I would prefer selection because that just keeps me my screen not so cluttered. It's just triangles and words for what I have selected, and if I have nothing selected, it's just this and this. I don't need to know what my entire scene has, I don't care, I just care about the selection. Okay, so if I would like to have a LOD now, I would just call that string LOD1 and link it to the thing and reduce polygons. And so we now really see it actually works. We're going to change it a bit. Okay, and bring it back to this, and export, turn off physics, and we would now see at some point it will go into the LOD.